Three, two, one.
Action.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 8 of our podcast, Untitled ZX, with me, Uncle Frank, and here's Nick.
That's
Nick, how you
me.
doing?
Uh, I'm alive. Take that how
Hmm.
you will.
How's the
Um,
week going?
well, the week's only just started, and I would prefer if it was over faster because next week is my spring break, which means I get a little bit of peace, but
And what are you going to do during your spring break?
absolutely nothing. That's a lie. I have to write an essay for the one gen ed class that I really, really hate.
I heard you also have to do some reading. Your
Yeah,
mom says she's going to make sure you do it. So
sure. Whatever she says, I guess.
that's a good approach, yes. All right, let's get into today's agenda. So we're going to talk about movies, movie review. We're going to do a top five list. And of course, for Star Wars time, we got top five lightsaber duels. But let's start with movies. Did you see any this weekend?
Well, this is a perfect segue into our review. I saw The Bride this weekend, a movie that got very mixed reviews, unfortunately, but I quite liked it. So I
Tell
guess that,
me what is it about?
so it's a modern sort of reimagining of The Bride of Frankenstein. I actually saw it in IMAX. They gave me a free poster, which you can see behind me.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
I tried
Okay.
to point at it, but camera's inverse, so it's weird. But
There was a Frankenstein, right? Ahead of this?
there was Guillermo del Toro did a Frankenstein film for Netflix, which came out back in the fall. No correlation between the two.
Oh,
Yeah,
so
no,
this isn't a sequel.
no. There's just sort of a Frankenstein craze lately, I guess,
Okay.
because Del Toro's was more. Its attempt was more of a faithful adaptation of the novel that didn't really lean towards the Hollywood like version of Frankenstein. Because like in
Hmm.
pop culture, you expect when it comes to Frankenstein, you expect like the tall green head with like the stitches and like the flat head that the Universal Monsters version was established in the 30s.
Yeah.
But Del Toro's approach was more make it faithful to Mary Shelley's original novel. Whereas this film, The Bride, directed by Maggie Gyllenhaal, was very different approach. Frankenstein's design wasn't like full-blown Universal Monsters version, but it had more like iconic Frankenstein like design for the character, and Frankenstein himself was actually played by Christian Bale, which
Yeah, you can't go wrong having Christian Bale play a character. So,
yeah, I actually quite liked him in the role. It was different than what he does. He's been doing more of these weird like monster roles lately.
so what was the main point of the plot here? I don't remember the Bride of Frankenstein movie. Did it stick to that plot?
I have not seen the original, but as far as I'm aware, it is very, very different. When I say
Okay.
modern reimagining, I put an emphasis on the term reimagining.
Does Frankenstein marry the bride of Frankenstein?
No.
You don't want to spoil it?
No, I'm not spoiling it. I mean, he actually doesn't marry her.
So what is the plot?
So it was kind of a bit of a mess,
Okay.
but the whole premise is, and it gets really weird because there's this like the main character before she dies and becomes the bride ends up getting possessed by the ghost of Mary Shelley and starts speaking out against like the crazy like patriarchy mob bosses in the 1930s, which gets her killed. And then we cut to Frankenstein, who at this point is over 100 years old, trying to find this renowned scientist who can make him a bride because he's been lonely for good 100 plus years. Been lonely since like the 1810s, and it's now the
Okay.
1930s. And so, after desperately trying to convince this scientist to help him, they end up digging up the grave of this dead girl and bring her back to life and sort of creates this weird thing because she doesn't really have her memory, but she's still possessed by Mary Shelley, which is
Okay.
kind of bizarre.
So
Um,
in this case, they dug her up. So it's more zombie than
yeah,
monster.
yeah. I mean, they do the whole Frankenstein technique of like we're going to use the lightning and
Gotcha,
like
gotcha.
the classic Frankenstein rejuvenation technique, but
Yeah. Okay.
uh, And the bride herself is played by Jessie Buckley, who we're probably going to be talking a lot about her next week since she looks like she's the front runner for Best Actress at the Oscars right now for her performance back in Hamnet.
Oh, okay. Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
won
that's
a
good.
Golden Globe for that, and she's a nominee for Best Actress at the Oscars. And statistically, at the moment, we've had a bunch of like anonymous Oscar voters get like interviewed, and a lot of them seem to be picking her for the Best Actress pick, which, fair enough. Her performance in that film was also absolutely wonderful.
How was her performance in this movie?
She was, for all intents and purposes, playing not a dual role, but a triple role, and she manages to sort of balance. I mean, the characters of Ida, who she was before she died, and the bride are pretty similar, albeit the character of the bride has more of that influence from the ghost of Mary Shelley, who is also played by Jessie Buckley, sort of in her head.
So she's got her hands full.
Yeah, all while Frankenstein has given her a totally different backstory because he's lied to her about knowing her the whole time,
Mm.
while she's also being pursued by the police because her and Frankenstein are accessories to a murder, a self-defense, but they didn't see that, so, and they see big scary monster, so obviously they're the bad guys because
Is it a
Frankenstein.
happy ending or not a happy ending?
It's kind of bittersweet. They both end up killed at the end, but the one police lady, this is a
Spoiler alert, by the way, for people who haven't seen it. But
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, when they're killed at the end, there's the two police detectives that were after them. The one detective knew her before she died and felt guilty about he basically he'd slept with her to open up a case against this mob boss who was murdering women. But then he never opened up the case and he feels guilty about that. So he resigns, and his assistant, who again, this is 1930s, like America,
Mhm.
very, very misogynistic era.
Huh.
So like
Okay.
his assistant, they keep assuming she's the secretary, but she's just as much a detective as he is, but no one takes her seriously. In the
Mhm.
final confrontation, when they go back to the scientist lab, she actually like leaves them. She's like, take as much time as you need. And then you just see that flash of lightning in the roof, and then you get like a close up of the hands of both Frankenstein and the bride, and you see them sort of come to life again, and that's the end.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a very
Interesting. Yeah.
I kind of get why it's got these sort of mixed reviews. To be quite frank, the closest
No.
movie I can compare it to is the second Joker movie, except what if Joker 2 committed to all of its insane ideas?
This isn't a musical though.
Not fully. There are a couple small like dance sequences, but it's not like fully musical. But I think it
Interesting.
commits more to its other ideas because Joker, the second one, sort of the first Joker ended with him sort of inciting this like revolutionary movement and becoming like this idol for them. And the difference between the bride and Joker is that Joker ends up rejecting this in the end and sort of giving up. That's a movie that sort of rejects its own absurdity. This movie fully goes like completely in.
Hmm. Tell me about so Maggie Gyllenhaal. I didn't even know she was directing. She directed other stuff.
This is her second feature. Her first one was a smaller drama a couple years ago called, I'm blanking on the name of it, but Jessie Buckley was in that as well. She pushed, the studio didn't want Jessie Buckley in this film. She pushed for her to get this role.
Hmm.
But she's been directing more than she's been acting. I don't think she's acted in a while.
Yeah.
Her
And
brother acts quite a bit.
what did Jake, yeah, what did Jake play?
He only really appeared briefly. He played this movie star that Frankenstein sort of idolized.
Hmm.
Frankenstein sort of idolized him because he kept going to the movies, breaking into the movies. I mean, this man, this poor guy, Frankenstein, all he wanted was to feel alive and feel like somebody cared about him. And the closest he ever got to that was at the movies.
Wow. Okay.
And there's a sequence in the movie where they act while they're trying to outrun the police, they end up barging into like this Hollywood banquet in like New York, I think. And he runs into Gyllenhaal's character, and then the police show up, and then the bride takes Gyllenhaal hostage for a minute, and there's sort of this whole confrontation where she ends up accidentally killing a cop in self-defense, and as she's all sort of like, as the voice of Mary Shelley is taking over, and she just has no idea what to do at this point. And that was an incredibly intense scene, right after a big dance number, actually. Big dance number culminates with the police barging in a hostage situation. Really like, well, it's an insane direction, I feel like.
Yeah, tell me what you thought the movie did well.
So I think, like I said, it commits to its absurdity. It knows it's got this powerful message, and even if its narrative doesn't entirely know what to do with it at times, it fully commits to it either way. It commits to this message, and it's very much a like female empowerment story as well, with again the ghost of Mary Shelley sort of taking over at times. And there'd
Yeah.
be a lot of moments where like you'd see her shift. You see Buckley's performance, great performance. Her and Bale are both phenomenal. There are like these little moments where Buckley's will shift from being the bride to having like Mary Shelley take over, and the way she sort of composes herself, her mannerisms, everything about her sort of shifts whenever Shelley takes over, and you sort of just see her go completely off the rails.
Yeah.
Where the bride's over here, like she has no idea who she is. She's all confused and doesn't know who she is or where she came from, and she's just sort of rolling with whatever Frankenstein says because she doesn't have any counterpoint. And
Mm,
then there's like random like bursts where Mary Shelley takes over and just starts yapping about God knows what.
okay, sounds a little crazy.
It's again, it's completely bonkers, but it commits to its complete bonkersness. That's not a word, but you get the idea.
Yeah. And what do you think? So how would you grade it? You'd recommend it?
Yeah. I know it got a lot of mixed reviews. It's only got like a 59 on Rotten Tomatoes. It's one that I
Yeah.
feel like is going to end up being more controversial. Again, its similarities to Joker 2 are not going to be the most like enthusing things for people because Joker 2 was very poorly received, and if they see people
Yeah.
comparing anything to that, they're going to immediately assume it's a bad thing, which even Joker 2 I don't actually think was a horrendous movie. It was just sort of there. It didn't really know what to do with itself, and
Mhm.
it felt like it went halfway with its ideas instead of all the way. This, I think, works a million times better again because it goes all the way. It doesn't
Right.
commit halfway and then back down from its own inherent absurdity. And it's inherent, like, sort of the power in this revolutionary movement that's inspired by the main character.
All right, I'll have to put it on my list to go see then.
Yeah, very
Sounds
well
pretty
shot.
crazy.
Was partially shot with IMAX in mind, so it had the expanded aspect ratio for part of the movie, which is always nice to see.
Yeah.
Love when we get the expanded aspect ratio.
All right. So that's The Bride. All right, let's go on to your top five favorite actors of all time.
Yeah, this
Now
changes.
we talked about favorite actors and best actors. This is not, would you say this is the same thing for you?
No, absolutely not. I feel like as many films as I've seen, I have not seen enough to be able to confidently say who are the best.
Okay.
Like I like if I were talking best, Brando would probably be in here, but I've
Okay.
seen him in two movies, and one of those movies he dies 3 minutes into it. So
All right. Well, yeah, we'll have to get you to watch more of those movies, I guess. So
I have
let's
a
talk
lot
about your
of
favorite actors then. Where do I start? Give me one.
yeah, it's no particular order. We're gonna start at the bottom with the great Ian McKellen.
Okay.
And everyone knows who Ian McKellen is. That's Magneto, that's Gandalf. I mean, I mostly know him as Gandalf, which is sort of the main thing for this pick, but he's been in other things. There's a movie with him coming out next month that I'm blanking on the name of that I want to see just because he's in it. Uh,
What do you like about him?
I didn't think that far ahead. I
Right.
This is the one that I just sort of was like, he's just everyone knows who he is, and everyone knows who he is for good reason. He's just kind of that guy.
Okay. He always has to play these older guys, doesn't he? Has he been
Well,
around a long time?
probably. I mean, yeah, he's still working. He's going to be in freaking Avengers this year, so
Have you seen any of his early stuff?
nothing before Lord of the Rings, or I guess it would have been X-Men actually, because X-Men, the first X-Men was before the first Lord of the Rings, but
Yeah. He always seemed like an old guy from what I got, but
yeah,
all
but
right, who's your next one?
Javier Bardem, wonderful, wonderful actor. He's in a lot, although a lot of people don't give him the recognition he deserves, although he has won an Academy Award for his performance in No Country for Old Men.
Yeah, I've heard of that one.
I am most familiar with him from he was in the two Dune films, a Stilgar, which is a brilliantly nuanced performance. There's going to be a theme here. Three of the five people here have been in Dune, but um,
What what makes him intriguing?
he sort of is able to play such a wide variety of characters. His most famous role, again, No Country for Old Men. I have not seen that, but the whole point of that character is he's like blood-chillingly sadistic and so unbelievably nonchalant about it. But he's
Right.
played people from villains to anti-heroes to straight up like he was in the F1 movie back in the summer.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
he played,
That's
he
right.
yeah, he played Silva, the main villain in Skyfall, James Bond.
Mm,
Um, that's he's still probably my favorite of the Bond villains from the movies I've seen thus far because he sort of almost channels his inner Joker with that performance. He definitely takes a lot from Heath Ledger in that performance. My favorite performance of his, again, we're going back to Dune, where he plays Stilgar, who is sort of probably of the characters I've seen that he's played, is probably his most nuanced performance because this is not an inherent hero or villain character. He's
hmm
this fanatic who believes firmly in sort of the ways and the traditions of their culture, but sort of descends from a loyal friend to our main character to a bumbling fanatic as he starts trying to embody this ancient prophecy where like the savior will come and lead them to paradise and bring their desert world back to its former glory. And you see sort of that tragic descent. You see how the the depths of how much he believes in these traditions and this prophecy turns him from this strong, wise leader to this pathetic, bumbling fanatic, and it's so tragic to watch. It's like this was such a well-respected man, sort of descends into nothing really, and he brings such a gravitas to that performance where like you see the depth, the ferocity of how much he believes it, everything
Yeah.
through Bardem's performance. You see that wise leader in the beginning where he brings this like powerful presence whenever he enters a room in the first film. By the end of the second film, all that is gone, and that is the power of Bardem's performance because he is able to let go of that which gave him such a strong presence because that is sort of the fundamental core of this character. And I
Yeah.
can't wait to see what they do with him, and not just part three, but if they continue beyond part three. In the third book, the third Dune book, because the third movie is only based on the second book, but in the third book, pretty early on, after Paul Atreides has vanished, he seriously starts to reconsider his actions, and he starts to sort of realize again what he's done and what he's become, how far from that great leader he once was is.
Yeah. Okay. Who's next?
We've got Florence Pugh, who is most known for her performance as Yelena Belova in the Marvel movies, which
All right.
some of the stuff she's been in has not been that great in those movies, but she does a lot of the heavy lifting. She first appeared in Black Widow in 2021. That was an okay movie. She was probably the standout. Then she reprised the role in the Hawkeye TV show later that year,
Mm,
which she wasn't in it. She was only a supporting role in that show, but I did actually really like that show. And then most recently, she and probably my favorite performance of hers was in Marvel's Thunderbolts last year, in which she was the main character.
right.
Although those are not the only things I've seen her in, she was also in Oppenheimer. She was in Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, and surprise, surprise, Dune Part Two. a role she will be
She is good
reprising.
in the Marvel movie. She has a Russian accent.
Yes, because she is the adoptive sister of
That's
Black
hard to
Widow.
pull off.
Yeah, she's British, so that's definitely not what she sounds like normally. And
Right.
I've seen people fail to keep those accents throughout their Marvel movies. I look at like the Scarlet Witch character who
Yeah.
had like this accent that was sort of almost Russian or German because it was in a fictional country that she was from, but then it just sort of downgraded to just being a British accent by the next movie.
So besides accents, what makes her good?
She's able to bring sort of a realism to a lot of these characters. Again, especially when you look at her performance in Marvel, as they sort of have built her up to be sort of the successor to Black Widow. But I almost feel like there's more to her than Black Widow. They deal more with that trauma of basically being a slave to
Yeah.
this cult of Russian assassins, and she brings sort of that humanity. And they don't address it as much in the Thunderbolts movie, but she's really the star of
Mhm.
Thunderbolts, and you sort of see how like years of after leaving that life behind, after finally being freed from that life, how she's sort of just not really been able to find a path for herself beyond just killing. And
Yeah.
you sort of see how that affects her throughout the film.
I do think it was believable, or you felt some compassion for her, I guess, because of her backstory, I suppose. But
Yeah.
yeah.
And she brings a lot to that performance.
Yeah.
Again, especially in Thunderbolts. So I can't wait for her 27 seconds of screen time in the new Avengers movie because everyone and their mother's in the new Avengers movie. Everyone's here. It's going to have a budget of like $700 million and there's going to be like 50 main characters. They're going to need at least 4 hours of movie to actually have everyone have a decent character arc in the film.
When does that come out?
December 18th, which is coming out the same day as her other big film this year, Dune Part 3. So she's gonna have a big day that day.
What's the name of the new movie? Marvel movie?
Avengers Doomsday. That's an entirely separate like disaster that I could go on about for hours.
Yeah, we'll cover that another time. But yeah, and they're releasing the same day as Doom Part 3.
Yeah, and the funniest part, Dune won the IMAX. Only one film can have an IMAX release slot at a
Oh,
time,
wow.
and Dune, due to being shot with IMAX cameras by default, gets that slot, and it has it reserved for 3 weeks. So our big Avengers blockbuster, first Avengers movie in 7 years, cannot be released in IMAX until at least 3 weeks after release.
Oh boy. Okay. Well, they'll make a boatload of money that way. Everybody will see it in a regular theater, and then everybody will have to go back and watch it in IMAX.
Yeah. So
Who,
Marvel,
who's your next choice?
Mark Hamill, it's just simple. It's Luke Skywalker. He's the best there is, but beyond just being Luke Skywalker, he never was really able to find these bigger roles afterwards. So in the late 80s into the 90s, he actually instead pursued a career in voice acting and animated stuff, establishing himself as arguably the most iconic Joker voice in Batman the Animated Series
Hmm.
and several other projects like the Arkham video games. um, I've seen a little bit of his Joker performance. His Joker voice is really good. Like
Hmm.
that is the Joker. Like when you think of the Joker, that is the voice you think of.
Yeah, that's a big change in career for him, right? But
He does a lot more villain roles too, like outside of like Star Wars. Like he played one of the most noble, iconic heroes in fiction, and brilliantly, might I add, both in the originals in the 70s and 80s, and even decades later in the sequel trilogy. In episode 8 especially, his performance was really good. You sort of see this broken hero.
yeah,
Like that was a really compelling performance where you see,
I think the trouble, he was so famous off the first Star Wars, it had to be hard to like see him as anything else for people. So,
yeah, Harrison Ford was the only one of the original like main trio that actually made it somewhere outside of Star Wars.
right.
He was already really on the rise. Star Wars was what made him blow up, and then he was getting
Yeah.
role after role after role. Indiana Jones, Blade Runner. I mean, he was in so much.
Yeah. Well, and to be honest, I still feel like his other characters weren't that different than his character in Star Wars.
That's
So,
probably true. He does have an archetype.
yeah. Now,
Whereas
give me your
Mark
last choice of favorite actors.
definitely talked about him before because I've talked about his performances in lo and behold, Star Wars and Dune, but Stellan Skarsgård, absolutely brilliant performer. So many different things he's been in. Just the last couple of years alone, he's been in Dune as the main villain, as this sort of like sadistic, perverted noble from House Harkonnen, the Baron.
Hmm.
Phenomenal performance, phenomenal villain, absolutely appalling character, but he does it brilliantly. He brings this appalling character to life brilliantly. Or in Sentimental Value, which won him a Golden Globe, and he too is currently an Academy Award nominee at the
Yeah,
moment. We'll see if he wins it on Sunday, and we will talk about that. Well, by the time this goes up, it will be next Sunday, and
right. Yeah, yeah,
talk
yeah.
about it on Monday when we record the next episode next Monday. But
Yeah.
his
He
performance,
too is another one of these guys. He really seen him recently, but did he do stuff when he was young? Did you see any of his old stuff?
I have not seen any of his old stuff before like the 2000s, 2010s, but I know he was also in like in the 90s, he was in Good Will Hunting. In the 2000s, he was in Pirates of the Caribbean.
I remember him in Good Will Hunting. Yeah, he was good there.
He appeared in a couple of the Marvel movies. He appeared in the first two Avengers and the first two Thor movies. Wasn't really a big character in those, but he was there.
Yeah. All right.
I've talked about my favorite performance of his though before, and yes, of course, it is a Star Wars.
Yeah.
Because he plays Luthen Rael in Andor. Again, brilliantly nuanced performance. This is a character who was like shrouded in mystery for the
Hmm.
majority of the show, but he's still compelling, even though we don't know why he's choosing to lead this fight against the Empire. But we know he is, and we know deep down he's broken, and he knows
Hmm.
that some of his actions are very, very wrong, but he feels like someone has to do the bad things.
Well, we'll see if he gets recognized at the Oscars. It'd
I
be
sure
good.
hope so.
Yeah.
I really do hope so. He deserves it.
I think it's interesting these characters or actors, I guess, to take a while to come into their own and become, maybe they're always good, but really is not recognized till they're older, But
Yeah, because he's probably in his 70s now. He's got a bunch of kids who act too. His son Bill plays Pennywise in It. He's
yeah.
got his son Alexander Skarsgård's in a couple things.
Hmm. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, he was just on Saturday Night Live, actually, his son. So,
he has another son. I think his name's Gustav. He was in Oppenheimer,
hmm.
uh,
Okay.
supporting role, but he's got like seven kids, and like four or five of them are actors.
All right, let's move on to Star Wars time. So we're going to talk about the best lightsaber duels. Where should we start?
These ones actually are in order, and I debated whether or not to lean towards live action or animation.
Hmm.
Whether
What'd you decide? It's better
or,
than
or rather, I debated it was going to include live action. I debated whether or not I would include animation as well, or just stick to live action. I ultimately decided to include animation, but
what do you think makes a good lightsaber duel?
so a lot of people will probably absolutely flame me for not including any duels from the prequel trilogy because everyone thinks that they're like the pinnacle of fight choreography, but to me, they're almost too flashy, those duels. And not that the flashiness is necessarily a bad thing, but I feel like you need to add weight to it. They feel light, they feel almost too hollow, and the action, the choreography feels less like fighting and more like dancing, which is all great and dandy, but I feel like you need to find a common ground to have weight to the combat. And I prefer a lot of these fight scenes when there is sort of this weight to the way they move, to the way they fight, and also,
So you like them to feel more realistic?
yes. Like I'm okay with them going a little over the top with the choreography. Like these are still skilled warriors, but I still want it to like sometimes it's like no, one of them is trying to kill the other. I would like to like feel that in the way they move.
Hmm. Okay.
That
All right,
leads
so where should we start?
That leads me effortlessly into my first one, which is sort of one that might get switched around a decent amount. Like this is not one that's like definitively in my top five, but this is the fight between Rey and Finn and Kylo Ren in the climax of episode 7.
Hmm.
And particularly, I like to focus on the first half of the fight when Finn had the lightsaber and I really like you can tell the contrast between the way these two characters fight. I'd also like to point out the sound design for the lightsaber in The Force Awakens for the lightsabers. they have never sounded that powerful or felt like that powerful in the way the VFX looked and in the way the sound was designed for the ignition. This is the absolute most powerful a lightsaber has ever sounded. Like you feel the weight
Well,
every time they ignite the blade.
and Finn doesn't have any force, or
He
very
does,
little.
but he didn't know that until episode nine, and he didn't say it in episode nine, but he was going to say it, and then they just never followed that plot point up because episode nine was just kind of a whole thing, but he did not know at this point, and a lot of speculation. People do like to think that his force sensitivity is why he was able to break free of the stormtrooper brainwashing and conditioning in the
Mhm.
film.
But
But
going
you
against Kylo Ren, who has the force,
and is trained, not only trained,
right?
but is at the moment incredibly emotionally vulnerable because he murdered
Mhm.
his father like 5 minutes earlier. But he's still a Skywalker. He is like at the height of his rage, but he is unstable. And for this
Mhm.
first half of the fight, and he's also just been shot by Chewie, like he just tanked a ginormous blast and is actively bleeding out as we speak, which you see several
Okay.
times where he like punches his side and you see like the blood dripping in the snow.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So he's weak, but you sort of see the difference and between both portions of the fight. When he's fighting Finn, Finn and Rey obviously both have never fought with a lightsaber before, and they both look very like all over the place. But at this point, Kylo has not lost enough blood to like have it actively affect him.
Mhm.
So you see the way he moves, he's toying with Finn the entire time. The entire time he's fighting Finn, he is not actually putting effort into this fight. So you see Finn like stumble and trip over himself because Kylo dodged his strike and he doesn't go in for the kill. He just sort of
Yeah.
watches him stumble over his own 2 feet. He's
Why
playing
do they
this.
never go for the kill? That's what's always crazy.
But the thing is, then Finn got one hit on him. The nanosecond Finn gets a hit on him, he ends the fight right there. Knocks the saber out of his hand, slashes him in the back, which him surviving that's a whole different debacle, but
Yeah. All
that's
right,
just
let's go to number two.
this is one of the two animated ones I'm going to talk about. This is Ahsoka's fight with Darth Vader in the Rebels season 2 finale. This fight is not in like the most like aggressively like in terms of choreography, it definitely suffers a little bit from Rebels' cheaper art style compared to say the Clone Wars, and it definitely isn't as fluid. But I think the reason this fight works is one, the setting, the backdrop of this fight is in this Sith temple on one of these ancient Sith worlds of Malachor, and the
Mhm.
temple is also actively collapsing because it's a super weapon, but they pulled the core of the super weapon out before the fight. So you see like the Sith holocron is ripped out, the temple's collapsing all around them, and you've got like this red lightning all around, and it is just insane to look at. The fight
Hmm.
itself is not the most powerful part, but rather the dialogue and sort of the character interactions surrounding this fight. Because Ahsoka is Anakin's apprentice. She is Anakin's Padawan, and she, up until this point, has believed that Anakin was dead. So
Hmm.
she has this vision a couple episodes prior where she thinks she's figured out that Vader is Anakin, but upon confronting him, she's in insane denial because of how different he's become, how vile he's become. And she's in denial, but as towards the climax of the fight, she slashes a piece of his mask off, revealing his face underneath. And you get
Yeah.
sort of this insane voice editing where like he talks briefly and it's the voice of Matt Lanter who voices Anakin in the Clone Wars, but it's overlapped with James Earl Jones's voice, who because James Earl Jones did reprise his role in the show, and
Oh wow. Okay.
that overlap, like you hear that like where she finally is like, okay, it actually is Anakin, and she's just like refusing to leave him behind, and then you just hear that overlap voice, then you will die
Huh.
before the sort of climax of that fight, and she stays behind to fight him as the show's main characters, Ezra and Kanan, are forced to escape the temple before it like explodes. For
Hmm.
years, we thought Ahsoka was dead, but then Dave Filoni decided that we're going to introduce time travel in the multiverse to Star Wars so that we can bring her back.
Nice.
so that we can do nothing with her in her own show. Because then they gave her a show and it wasn't very good, and that's a whole other debacle that we're not going to get into today.
All right, so that's number two. Let's go to number three.
This is another live action one from a very controversial show that I do not think deserves a good majority of the hate that it gets. The Acolyte, season one, episode five. I don't know why I'm saying season one. The show is canceled. There's only one season, but um, this show was the first of the live action Disney Plus shows that actually felt like they tried with the fight
Mhm.
choreography in terms of lightsaber duels. And this fight, where it's just a whole strike team of Jedi, including some of our main characters like Master Soul and Jackie Lon, fighting this mysterious dark warrior who is he has no name. The marketing just calls him the Stranger. Um, and this
Hmm.
is the first time any Jedi have fought a Sith in 900 years. So
Hmm.
this strike team has 7 or 8 Jedi on it versus this one dude. The fight choreography is absolutely electric. It has a lot of the same fight choreographers that worked on the Marvel movie Shang-Chi, which was a very martial arts heavy film and
Mhm.
was very well choreographed. This show sort of incorporates martial arts into like the lightsaber combat and into the Force, and it really sort of shows the real power of the Force. And a lot of the time, like for the first couple episodes, you had these Jedi characters who were straight up hand-to-hand fighting with the Force. But now we've introduced lightsaber combat into the show,
Yeah.
and you mix martial arts, the Force, and saber combat. And the character of the Stranger is absolutely brutal
Mhm.
because he kills all but one of the Jedi. He kills most of the team. Master Soul is the only one who survives this fight, and some of the kills are like not like they're not like a nice clean kill. Like he gets intense. One of them, he stabs one through the chest with a lightsaber and then
Yeah.
uses the force to pull the one behind them also into the lightsaber and does sort of
Uh,
like a kebab kill. And there's another one where he stabs the one who survives Jedi Master Soul, who is played by Lee Jung Jae, who is the lead actor from Squid Game, actually.
hmm.
His Padawan Jeki is he stabs the Padawan 3 times through the chest. And the most brutal kill is so I'm not going to talk about the brutal kill yet until I explain what cortosis is. So he's the Stranger wears this helmet and this gauntlet on one of his arms that's made of this metal called cortosis, which is a metal that dates back to like reference books from the 90s, but this is the first time it's been shown on screen in live action. And sort
Mhm.
of there's a magnetic property to cortosis that makes a lightsaber blade short circuit when it comes in direct contact to it. And so he is straight up headbutting lightsaber blades and short circuiting them. Like there is a scene where he's in a blade lock with Master Soul. Like they're in a blade lock and he moves his in the middle of attack and he just straight up headbutts the saber. And then they start fighting with fists. Like he starts trying to swing at him while Master Soul is using like martial arts to like block his hand,
Yeah.
which again, really cool seeing martial arts incorporated into it. But he gets his mask knocked off during the fight.
Oh,
And one of the Jedi, Yord Fandar, he sneaks up because he was away for a little bit of the episode trying to escort someone back to the ship, but they eventually agree to go help. So he uses the Force to grab the broken part of the helmet. He swings his saber at the Stranger. The Stranger blocks it with his wrist and disables Yord's lightsaber. But then the Stranger swings his lightsaber. Yord blocks it with the helmet, and then they both end up like in a fist like lock, and he grabs his arm, like twists his arm, breaks his arm, and then pushes him to the ground, snaps the neck. Not even with the force, just bare hands. And
oh
that
man.
caught me so off guard when that episode aired. I was like, oh, they actually went there. Okay. Like, this is a Star Wars show, and they had him straight up.
Yeah,
Okay.
juice.
Like,
Wow.
okay. The sheer brutality of it is insane.
All right, tell me about number four.
So this one, another animated one, this is from the Clone Wars season 5, episode 16. This was such an insane fight scene where you have Darth Maul and his brother Savage Opress are
Hmm.
confronted by Palpatine, who has finally determined that their survival is a direct threat to his reign and his plan. So he goes to Mandalore, and Maul has had one hell of a day. I mean, he kidnapped Obi-Wan, he murdered Obi-Wan's love right in front of him, and then Obi-Wan got away. And then right at the end of the day, Palpatine decides to roll up, and he's like, "Okay, this is not happening. There's only allowed to be two Sith. You are not allowed to exist anymore. You should not be alive." So Palpatine pulls out both of his lightsabers because Palpatine has two lightsabers, which they explain in the movies as he lost one of them during his fight because he didn't always fight with both of them. But in Revenge of the Sith, he lost one, and then he had another one that he pulled out when he fought Yoda. But he's using
Hmm.
both of them, and you've got him going against Darth Maul and Savage, who, again, this is also sort of fun because this is the first time you see red on red sort of on screen, where you've got Sith versus Sith.
Hmm.
And the way Palpatine sort of like Maul and Savage are powerful, and you see sort of that strength when they're fighting Obi-Wan earlier in the season, but
Hmm.
they are nothing compared to Palpatine, and Palpatine makes sure they know that. He is not even taking the fight seriously, and he still wins with pretty much no effort.
Huh.
Like he kills Savage, which to Maul's horror, because like Maul may be twisted and evil, but he's an incredible Maul's a more tragic figure. Palpatine
Hmm.
stabs his brother, throws the body off a ledge. Maul jumps down to mourn his brother's death. That as Palpatine's up there cackling like a madman, mocking him, like you have been the first and only reality of the Sith. That can only be two, and you have been replaced while Maul is over here cradling the body of his brother who he just murdered. Like he is so unbelievably sadistic. And
Hmm.
that was the last
Okay.
time we'd seen Maul for a while before Maul returned in Rebels because Clone Wars got cut short. So
Hmm.
we didn't get to see where that story went, although there was a comic that followed the afterwards. Because Palpatine then Maul goes like feral, like full rage, and Palpatine still bests him with pretty much no effort, and
Hmm.
then doesn't even kill him. He's like electrocuting him, and Maul's like absolutely terrified for his life. He's like, "Please have mercy," and Palpatine's like, "There is no mercy," and then just starts shocking him with his Force lightning, whilst like laughing hysterically, taunting him like, "I'm not going to kill you. I have other uses for you." As he's just cackling like a madman.
All right, tell me about the last one.
This is a no-brainer. Luke and Vader, their first fight on screen in both
Hmm.
canon and Legends, they have fought before this, just not on screen.
Hmm.
So on Bespin and Cloud City in The Empire Strikes Back, it's not the most extravagant fight in terms of the choreography, but I think it more than makes up for it in one, the emotional stakes of the fight, and
Hmm.
two, the setting and the way it is shot. Like when
Yeah.
Vader first appears and you like see his silhouette and Luke's silhouette and they have the sabers ignited about to fight, like that is one of the greatest shots ever. You just see like the blacked out silhouettes against the lighting of the carbon freezing chamber as the fight begins.
Yeah, that's become iconic. I mean, I feel like, yeah.
Everything about the fight is iconic.
Yeah.
Everything as the fight escalates, as it becomes more intense. You've got sort of Vader toying with Luke. For
Hmm.
this is again a lot like Finn and Kylo. Vader is toying with Luke. Vader has absolutely no intentions of killing Luke. He keeps saying, "Don't make me destroy you," but he has absolutely no intentions of killing him. He's
Hmm.
here to test his skill more than anything, to see if he'd be worthy to join him to take down the Emperor.
Right.
Like he chops off his hand, and that's the extent of what he does in terms of. And Vader has a knack for cutting people's arms off. When he trained some of the Inquisitors in the comics, he chops off their arms, and the Grand Inquisitor's like, "Yo, Vader, what was that for?" And he's like, "It teaches them about loss. They will never forget it." So that's sort of
That's a
Vader's
good
mentality.
backstory. Yeah, that's a good backstory to know why he did it to Luke.
Yeah, he does that. He's like, "Yeah, no, I'm not trying to kill him. I want him to join me. We're gonna cut off his hand first anyway, but off with his hand." But he's like, "Now he'll know how I feel, just a little bit."
And he says, "I'm not your father," right before the fight, right? Or
No, he
what
doesn't
does he
say
say
anything.
that?
They don't address that. They don't, because Luke doesn't bring it up during the fight. Vader's the one who brings it up after he cuts his hand off. Vader says, Obi-Wan never told you what happened to your father. There was actually a fight because this is not their first time fighting. In the comics, they fought a couple months after A New Hope. Um, it was a very brief fight. Luke had no training, so it did not last long. It was a miracle he got it with his life. At that
Yeah.
point, Vader was trying to find the pilot who blew up the Death Star because he knew the pilot was strong with the Force. And that fight in the comics, Luke starts it. He's saying, "You killed my father." And Vader at this point has not figured out that Luke is his son
Mm,
yet. So
mm,
he says, "I've killed many fathers. You have to be more specific." And that fight is very quick. Vader manages to disarm him and grabs his lightsaber, but then
mm,
he's about to like kill Luke with both sabers. But then he looks at the lightsaber and he's like, "Wait a minute. I know this lightsaber. This is mine." He's like,
mm.
"Wait a minute. This is mine. How'd you get this?" And then Luke takes the opportunity to get the hell out of there.
All right, well, you got a pretty good list there, I'll say.
Yeah. Versatile list. A versatile list that will make our backslash prequel memes on Reddit very upset, but it's not
Yeah,
it's not
I'm sure people have plenty of opinions about this.
oh certainly. They'd be like, "Where's Anakin and Obi-Wan's fight in episode 3?" And I'm like, that one's solid, but the music
Hmm.
does a lot of the heavy lifting for that one. That's John Williams' fight more than it is any of the characters.
Hmm. All right, well, that basically wraps us up for today. So for next week, as you said earlier, we should be able to react to the Oscars.
Yep, those
And yeah, let's see if everything we expected happened, if there's any surprises. We're gonna do a movie review of The Godfather Part Two.
subject to change because I don't know if I'm going to be able to get a DVD of that in time because I don't know if we have one.
What do you mean? You can just stream it. It's everywhere.
I want to watch it in my basement in my movie theater at home on the big screen like it deserves to be seen.
Okay. Well, hopefully you can, and then we'll do some Star Wars time. We're going to maybe talk about the best movie lines in Star Wars. That should be interesting. And then,
That connects very well to what we just talked about.
what's the next movie you plan to see?
Um, so this week, that the one I wrote on the thing is wrong, but this week I'm going to the cinema to see something that's actually not new and not something I haven't seen before. The 35th anniversary re-release of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2: The Secret of the Ooze.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
It's a classic. I don't like it's not a good movie, but it's also like the greatest thing ever, and I can't explain the contrast there, but you're gonna have to take my word for it.
I'll take your word for it. So, all right. Well, I think that'll about do it for today. So, yeah, let's wrap it up.
Yep, that's a wrap, as we
That's
say.
a wrap. Thanks, everyone.
And cut.